Howdy folks, welcome back. It's October 12th, 2020, and this is the first chapter of my UFO story. These are stories that viewers like yourself will send to me about your sightings of a UFO. So I'm just going to jump right into the first one here. By the way, I'm not going to say the gentleman's name. He didn't say whether he wanted me to say his name or not, so I'm just going to leave it anonymous. And there's also not a location of where this is at, but here we go. I spent 2 years going outside every night. A lot of my social life I've done away with for a while, 2016 to 2018. One night I was out watching and I saw something huge coming at treetop level. As it got over my head, I could tell they were two boomerangs looking like a B-2 but round in the front. Seconds before, I saw them high in the sky doing things that were not supposed to be able to do, breaking the laws of physics. As they got over my head, I'll admit I resisted the urge to run. I could see them quite clearly, and they were black and polished and quite menacing looking. They were medium-sized, not too large, but absolutely silent. I would estimate them to be about 200 feet in diameter. And they literally flew right over my head, and I snapped 2 pictures, and even though I can see them clearly, the camera didn't pick up anything but light. Didn't pick up anything but lights. It shows a black blob moving, but I saw it clearly. It has a diamond-shaped window or light where you would think the pilots would be. They flew at treetop level, and I could even see the 2 little nodules on either side of the middle of the, lost my space again, 2 little nodules on either side of the middle. So any boomerang pictures with the 2 little nodules is a real one because I've seen it. I have several more I can send you. Like I said, I used 2 years of my life watching the night sky. Yes, I have seen a disc, quite small, don't know if it was piloted. It had orange portholes. That's a really great story. I kind of fumbled it a little bit there. But that's incredible. 2 black polished boomerangs doing things that we're not supposed to be able to do, and then flying over at treetop level. That's a really incredible story, and I want to thank that gentleman, and I look forward to more stories that he has, and I also look forward to stories that other viewers are going to be sending me. I've received some really great ones so far, so I'll have to try and get those out maybe in shorter videos so it doesn't take me so long in between videos. We're going to see, and you probably have already seen, some obfuscation in these pictures. This is an area right here that they really didn't want us to see. Not only did they blur it out, they put that grid work over it. And that just really does a very fine job of eliminating any possibility of being able to see what you're looking at there. And this is an area that has much of the same types of things that we've seen before. It's always the same, isn't it? There are triangular craft, and there is a lot of debris here. And I suppose it's always going to be like that as long as we're looking at pictures from Gale Crater, because ever since we started looking at these GIGAPAN pictures, these are the only types of things that we see anymore. I had a discussion last night with somebody about a picture I was looking at about 3 years ago. It was the usual blurry pictures, couldn't see much, but I was looking at what I thought were rocks, and one of these rocks was very square, and the thing I noticed about it is that it was sitting on its corner. And you know, what kind of a square rock sits on its corner in a natural setting? Of course it doesn't. And I know now that it wasn't a rock, that it was you know, some type of debris, and this is just one example of how I should go back and look at all these things that I looked at in the past, even though the pictures are blurry, because sooner or later these GIGAPANs are going to run out. We're going to run out of them. Look at this square hole here, and that big square thing above it sitting on the ground. The square hole, in my opinion, we've seen them before, is a cross-section of a triangular craft that is broken off. And the thing sitting above it is a big piece of hull from another vessel. It's got that sandwich material that you would expect a hull to be made out of. And we'll always looking at the ground, or what appears to be the ground. It's never actually dirt or sand or rocks. It's whatever the surrounding material is. It's all metal of some kind or another. And here is a couple of vessels here. And the pointy one is very interesting. We'll get a close-up on that in a little bit. But sitting up here on this little plateau is what looks like some type of a gun, actually. Not necessarily that it is, but it does look like something that you would see that looks like a gun that we've seen before. And then in the background there is a big piece of a vessel that shows the individual levels or floors of what the inside of that vessel look like, I guess, is one way to put it. So if you look in there, that's where people were walking, right? Those are the levels. And that vessel it was completely destroyed and just has that piece sitting there. And not unlike all of the other buttes that we've seen, there's plenty of stuff sticking out. It's all very interesting. But after a while, it tends to be almost the same thing over and over. But here you can see some levels of vessels, and these have been flattened down for the most part. Now, the top right part of this picture here, you can see a vessel where it has the black stripes. And that's more or less the normal width of those stripes. Those are, again, the floors, the individual floors. And looking at the left here, you can see where they've been compacted down. So much of the time we see these stripes and they are compacted. We don't always get to see the actual size of those floors or those levels. And right here is what looks like a piece of a vessel sitting on top of a bunch of other debris. And it's really hard to say what it was. I mean, it could have been a vessel. Well, everything is vessels, right? I mean, I have to keep reminding myself that this stuff comes, it's all the same. It covers everything. Which reminds me, I had a viewer send me a message, and he had just seen the movie The Rise of Skywalker, the Star Wars movie. And he says, man, when I was watching that movie, he says, I couldn't help but to think of what I've been saying about all these triangular vessels that have come down and cover the ground. And in that movie, I went and watched it. And yeah, there are some space scenes with thousands upon thousands of vessels, and many of them are coming down. And it's just exactly like Mars, It's not far off at all. And I suppose any scenario that you could ever dream of, and all the ones that you can, have probably happened in our universe. But I thought it was real interesting. I think those people at Star Wars, the Lucas group, had some insight. And because it can't be just coincidence that they're flying huge triangular vessels and there's a war and they're coming down. It's exactly what happened here. So I'm not much of a believer in coincidences. Now here we have another vessel that's incorporated into the hillside at this point, because we are talking many millions of years. And it's got quite a bit of detail, a type of detail that we really have not seen very much of. And upon closer examination, it's really quite incredible. You can see different levels. You can see some of the windows, and you can see the fact that this thing is deteriorating like everything else. And it doesn't just deteriorate nice and evenly and smooth. It deteriorates in probably all sorts of different ways, but some pretty good detail on this. And I have another picture coming up that's got maybe some of the best detail we've seen so far. It's very interesting. It's a mechanical detail, and I think it is the best we've seen. This is a fairly large vessel, but certainly nowhere near the largest ones that we've seen that are many miles long. And I know I say a lot of preposterous things, and if you're new to my channel, then I can imagine you just turning it off because it all sounds so silly. But if you don't believe me, I challenge you to go back and look at maybe the last 20 videos or so that I've done. These are all of the GIGAPANs and this type of stuff that I'm talking about. And as you go through, you become educated. Each new video gives a new level of education on what we're seeing. And so I'm real comfortable in what I'm saying, even though it sounds completely crazy. So big flat surface there on this butte. I suppose it could be the side of a vessel. Most likely that's what it is. And here's a vessel sticking out of the hillside that's also broken off. And then and that's on the left part of the screen, and then right in the middle and coming up towards the right are some more vessels that are buried and deteriorating and exposing the interiors. So again, this is the interior of a vessel where people are walking around. I'm sorry, I can't help but to say that because it really brings it home, I think. It's one thing to look at all this stuff and it's all interesting, but there was a human side to this. Right there on the cliffside is another triangular vessel of some kind that has a not quite a square thing sticking up with a black thing on it. That's real informative there, isn't it? Anyway, you can see the vessel, and this is how it is. You think you're looking at what are buttes, and there's nothing natural about the buttes. They're completely made up of vessels, just like this one right here. And I thought this image that we're working with today is one of the better ones because there is so many different things to see. A couple of real unusual things as well. Aren't they always unusual? It's never usual for us, is it? Now right here in the middle of the screen you see a light square area. It's as if there's a room there or a hollow area that's lighted, and there's something in there, but it's well lit. You can see it looks like a room. There must be light coming in the back of it, and it's sort of backlit, and it looks like there's some sort of a vessel in there, maybe something like a saucer. See it? Right dead center. It's not real clear. And always tons of debris falling down. You can see the way this stuff erodes, the way the hull is coming apart. And right there, a little bit left of center, a little bit up, is something that is right in front of the shaded area, and it has like a line going from it to something else. And upon closer examination, it's not a line; it's something, some sort of umbilical cord, or who knows. It's just no way to know, but you can see some detail on the top of that. And not unlike other buttes and other places that we've seen, we see these superstructures on the ground laying around. And this one in the dead center here may or may not be a superstructure. It might be the actual front end of a triangular craft, because it is very, very pointy, and I don't recall seeing the superstructures exactly that pointy, but then again, they do make different kinds. So yeah, I've gotten a number of UFO stories from my viewers, and geez, they're just really incredible. I have a couple of myself, a couple of my own, but mine pale in comparison to these other ones. So I'm really excited about this. I hope it grows, and I hope people will continue to send in their emails. I know of a couple people that have great stories. I haven't seen their emails yet, so maybe I need to prompt them a little bit. It's surprising how many people do have stories. Right here, dead center, there's a dark area in that flat surface there, and it looks like a tank, like some sort of a tank. When I say tank, like a water tank there in the little shaded area. Just left of center right now. Something going on in that area there. And then on top of this area is, again, more deteriorating hull. And this stuff falls apart, right? Falls apart. Little pieces fall down together. The wind rustles them together for millions of years. And they erode down to sand. So you can take any kind of metal, I suppose, and put it in something and shake it and vibrate it and blow it, and eventually it'll all break down to little tiny granules, and that becomes sand. And so what we see in these areas is metallic sand. I'm quite sure of it. Again, I don't have any way to prove it, but there's nothing else around here, so I just assume that's what it has to be. This looks like a missile sticking out, and look at the surface there. That looks like, that's more hull that's just deteriorating. Truly a mysterious place. Here is a superstructure or a bridge, and you can see the window openings on it, and they're all wavy looking because it's partly compressed and partly not. And I don't think anybody can live here. I don't think you can even walk around here. I used to think there was life in this area, but I don't know. I do have pictures of people, so they must be able to get around somehow. Here is a piece of a vessel coming in from the 9 o'clock position. You can see it's broken off, and the pointy part of it's all beat up, a little bit bent. And it's sitting here right in front of this larger piece of vessel before we saw that gun up on top there in gold. And again, this is the floors of a vessel that we're getting an inside view of. It seems that whenever these vessels come down, eventually the hull on the outside falls away, and then it exposes what's on the inside. Quite a bit of detail here as well, and as usual, we can't tell what it is, but there's a lot of detail there. And one thing I've been saying, and I want to correct myself, I've said it a number of times, that there's only triangular crafts. These are the only kind of crafts they have. And look at this pointy thing here. There's an example of a different kind of craft. So they do have more than the triangular crafts. just the vast majority of everything that we've seen are the triangulars, but we have seen tube-shaped or airplane fuselage-shaped vessels, somewhat like the pointy thing we were just looking at. We have seen some airplanes. So there are different types of vessels, but the vast majority are the huge, from small to mega huge, triangular vessels. And I think these are what make up the vast majority of all the buttes that we see as well. Now right here, coming in or coming down from about the 11 o'clock position, there's something in the background there. It's in the shade, but the tip of it is sticking out into the sun. And it's showing us some really great detail. Very interesting, very mechanical, obviously intelligently designed. Yeah, I mean, there's just no way to know what that is. It could be anything. Could be weapons, could be, who knows. I bring up weapons a lot because I've seen so many guns, and this is obviously the the losing end of a war here. So that's why I'm sort of paranoid in a way. When I see things, I sometimes jump right to weaponry. Of course, that's not always true, but it seems like it is much of the time. Up on top of the butte here are the remains of more vessels. These look like very large superstructures. Maybe just the superstructure is up on top, and this is just part of the vessel. I'm not really sure. But it's pretty clear, and it's not compacted down. It's very, very straight, and you can get a real sense of the size of these windows that run the length of the vehicle. And up on top of that thing, right in the middle, is what looks like a big, I don't know, like a big propane tank laying on its side. I'm sure that's not what it is, but it looks like it has that shape to it. And it seems like there's two vehicles here, or at least two superstructures, one on the left and one on the right. One is tall and built up, and a very interesting design at the top of it and going down a couple levels. It almost looks like an area you could walk outside, kind of like a deck in a way. And I can only assume that these things are anti-gravity, and that they are able to be in space and in the atmosphere as well. There's no reason why not. So maybe these are the remains of Martian cruise ships that spend their time in space and came down, or when they're in the atmosphere they can walk out on these little decks. The pictures of people that I have, I have 3 good pictures of people. 2 have no masks. 1 has a mask. And they're pretty clear pictures. If you're interested, you gotta go back and find the videos. Again, there's people walking around on the insides of these. This gives you some idea how big this stuff is. I wonder what it would have been like to be inside one of these vessels doing whatever it is you're doing when they suddenly begin to drop out of the sky. What a terrifying experience. Again, lots of detail here. It's hard to say what any of it is. Every time I see something long and pointy, I tend to say missile, but they're not all missiles. We have seen plenty of missiles that definitely are, and some that may or may not be, and some that are not missiles. Just another part of the bluffs. It's all not natural, everything you're looking at. You can tell immediately by looking. I've said it before. I whenever I look at pictures like this, I just can't help but to wonder how many people were involved with all of this. And this is just one example of one area. How many people were in all of these thousands of vessels? In other words, how many people died? And I definitely take solace in the fact that it was millions of years ago. But that doesn't mean that whoever caused this isn't still lurking about. I've heard stories. I spend a lot of time listening to Linda Howe. I think she's an incredible reporter, and she's irreplaceable. When she goes, we don't have anybody to fill her shoes. I hope she knows somebody that can. But the story goes is that there's, in particular, 3 races, and they all contend that they have ownership of this planet. And some of these races want us to be wiped off the face of the earth, and one of them is our friend, our ally that's been protecting us. The whole story of the past and the present is just so complicated. It is so complicated. I don't know, even if we knew all the facts, if all this stuff could even be weeded out. There's another superstructure. It's all compacted down. Some of the window areas are the right size, but most of it's all flattened out. It's just a picture of some more debris here, along with the deteriorating hulls all around. There's a little bit of detail in there. And here's a picture of the ground, and I use that word grudgingly. There's a possible superstructure right in front of us, and then off to the left here from the 9 o'clock position is what looks like another triangular craft. This would be one of the smaller ones, but if you can picture a person walking around on the inside of this, then we get a sense of the size of it. Look at the very tip of it on the left from the 7 o'clock position. Picture yourself standing down there. These pictures are all so well, they're just hard to figure out, when it comes to scale. It's really tough. And as I said previously, this epiphany I've had of people walking around in these things, I think it's pretty good, but it's, I don't know. I don't know for sure. I don't ever know anything for sure. What I do know for sure is, though, that the ground and Gale Crater and all of the pictures where Curiosity rover have been is covered in metal debris, much like what we're looking at right here. In this image, the conditions must have been just right, and conditions being the sun, the clarity of the sun, and in the angle, because we get to see a lot of this metal debris, very, very clearly. Much of the time we're looking at this stuff from a little bit of a distance, and it doesn't look quite natural, but you can't get the clarity that we're getting right now. It looks like a destroyed triangular vessel sitting there. It has the shape in the back and going down. The lines, where the lines meet. And this is a real unusual picture with all of this metal debris. It almost looks like there's a vessel stamped in there, a triangular stamp. And this is one of the reasons why I say it would be hard for anybody to live here. I mean, how could you even walk around with all of this thin, eroded metal debris? I just don't see how you could get around at all. And maybe that's why the wheels on the rover were made out of metal, right? They knew this. It just seems like if you know, the right kind of rubber and the right kind of tire, it would have been a better type of wheel. But with all of this metal debris of it rolling over it, I guess the rubber tires would have just really got chewed up quickly. This looks like another destroyed vessel. And it is eroding. And look at all of that shiny metal. Can you believe that? So if you look at that, do you say to yourself, that's metal? Or do you wonder what it is? I think it's metal. Looks like it. It's always gold and silver and very shiny. And typically we can't tell what we're looking at. It's just a bunch of debris. It's very pretty though. That's the remains of a triangular vessel right in front of us. So what a place. What a place. I've decided I'm going to start looking around. I want to get some more satellite pictures. See if I can find more cities. There's something right here in the middle. I don't know what it is. Looks like a little group of people. I don't think that's what it is, but that's what it kind of looks like. Very interesting. Blurry in the background for some reason. And coming down from the 11 o'clock position, very interesting thing up there. Whatever it is. Thanks for watching, folks, and I'm looking forward to reading the next My UFO story on the next video. And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.